YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. We got bold predictions for Week 17 sent in by you guys through our Twitter. As always, every Thursday here, we'll react to these bold predictions to play along. Follow our Twitter. We got a lot of content on there as well. A lot of talk during games, a lot of polls for you guys. Check it out. Link down below. There's also links pinned in the comments for recent videos. Also, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Be much, much appreciated. Let's get into these bold predictions. First one comes from Micah. Darnold throws a touchdown. First glance, it's like, yeah, he's going to throw a touchdown, right? And you really got to think about it. Sam Darnold, struggling Panthers offense, stout Saints defense, might not happen. It's an interesting one. It might not happen. This actually becomes a tough one. He's got to throw it. I could see him rushing for a touchdown. I'm going to say I got a feeling he passes for a touchdown here. Maybe the first drive, first time I touch the ball. I'll say it's realistic. Sam Darnold throws a touchdown pass. Some people might think it's piping. We'll see. There's another one. It's pretty much the same thing here, but for Trevor Lawrence from Dan Desp. Trevor Lawrence throws a touchdown pass. Playing the Patriots defense, pretty damn good defense. Just struggled a little bit recently, but Trevor Lawrence struggling to throw in general, but to get touchdown passes, receivers not getting a lot of separation, play callers aren't helping him, but Trevor Lawrence not helping himself. Patriots pass defense, that's tough. I'm gonna say it's hot. Some might say it's piping. Maybe Trevor Lawrence runs for one. I could see him get a rushing touchdown. I think the key against the Patriots is maybe running the ball. I don't know if there is a specific key, but it's certainly not passing, especially if a rookie who's struggling. I don't really see him. I had the Jaguars getting 10 points, so that's only one touchdown. I don't really plan on that being a passing touchdown. I could be wrong for sure, but we will see. Who is Jonathan? As a Falcons fan, I have nothing left to lose. Falcons stun the world like the Jags did. Yeah, forget that the Jags beat the Bills. Like, the Bills are heating up again. We always viewed them as a pretty good team, even when they got disappointing, but forget they lost to the Jags. Nobody loses to the Jags, really. Only scored 6 points. I actually saw a lot of people on Twitter saying this, like their take was the Falcons are going to beat the Bills here. So people are feeling it maybe. I know it's bold prediction. Doesn't mean they actually predicting it. But it's kind of weird that a lot of people said something similar to this. It makes you think, are people onto something here? The Falcons going to upset the Bills, try to sneak into the playoffs. The Bills going to choke, right? Because every time we jump on that Bills train this year, there's a few teams like that. Here's the Bills. Then they kind of just blow it. But I do like the matchup for the Bills. I just don't expect a whole lot of Falcons offense here. And there's that defense doesn't present any big problems for Josh Allen and co there. So, that's a tough one. I kind of could see it just because a lot of people are saying it. But I'm not going to go piping. We're going to go hot. I just really like the matchup for the Bills. But it is interesting. I love pretty much as a storyline for almost every game here. Like the Bills, they feel kind of hot right now at the right time, but it's kind of like a question. Like, are they? There's some teams that, yes, they are. Cowboys. I think the Colts, Packers remain hot. And the Bills we're kind of dipping our toe in there, saying that they're hot at the right time. And we're kind of halfway in. But get another good win here. But do they slip up? And the Falcons, if the Falcons win this game, man, it's kind of feeling like the Falcons might get in the playoffs. Be a big game next week against the Saints. It could see the Falcons choking that. But it'd be huge if they can somehow pull this off. 2021 season. It's been weird. Falcons struggled against Tim Boyle and the Lions last week. It kind of would be a 2021 thing for them to just somehow upset the Bills. The matchup definitely does not say that, but for some weird reason I could see it. Not that I'm really even close to predicting it. Sade. Trey Lance takes advantage of his opportunity and starts the rest of the season. So they still didn't officially rule out Garoppolo. It sounds like he's doubtful, but he says he probably can play through it. He can play. It really feels like it's going to be Trey Lance this week. Maybe they're playing it safe. Maybe they want to see Trey Lance. Maybe it's like, hey, it's the Texans, which I wouldn't take the Texans lightly like that, but it's the Texans. It's a good opportunity to get Trey Lance going. I don't think it's that. If they felt like Garoppolo could play and they felt like he had the best opportunity to win this game for them, they would play him because it's an absolute must win. They actually can win this game lose next week to the Rams, I mean, if they win next week and the Rams are going to get in, but if they lose next week to the Rams, even while winning this game, they actually might be out. There's ways that the Saints, Eagles could get over them in certain scenarios that are very realistic, actually. My point is they definitely want to win this game. But this is a good one because I think Trey Lance will play. I think he'll play fine. I don't think he'll light it up in the passing game. I don't think he'll be bad in the passing game. I think he'll light it up maybe in the running game. I think that's what it'll be. But will that be enough to be like, yes, we're going Trey Lance against the LA Rams? I can argue both sides. I can see it. The key to beating the Rams this year and the last few years, well, this year they started off with created some turnovers, but something I noticed, because it's kind of a known thing that Shanahan always beats McVay, 49ers always beat the Rams. It seems like they're just way more physical than them. Maybe not in general, but in those specific games. They're just in those games, they are way more physical in them. Having Trey Lance at quarterback and just pounding the football and being physical, maybe that's the key. Maybe that's the plan. Maybe get a warm-up here for the Rams because they want to change it up, throw off the Rams because the Rams are probably game planning for Jimmy Garoppolo. And that just may not be the case at all. They may want to go Jimmy Garoppolo next week. So I'm kind of all over the place here. I kind of can argue both sides. But do I see Trey Lance takes advantage of the opportunity and starts the rest of the season? Again, I think he plays well. I think it's pretty hot, though. I don't really expect him to start the rest of the season. But I wouldn't rule it out for sure. It's a good one. One of the ones that are kind of can argue both sides, kind of all over the place. Those are the good ones here. Just a hot topic, intriguing topic. What's going to happen here? Fake Derek Dietrich. Mahomes and Burrow throw for a combined 1,000-yard shootout type game. Well, Joe Burrow, we know both these guys are capable of getting up there, 500 yards passing. So they're capable of doing it. It's possible. I think it's pretty piping, though. I know Burrow's fresh off that game and Mahomes is heating up. I think there's a lot of talking points here. Like in this game, they're going to score this many points. These quarterbacks are going to play elite. They're going to throw for this many yards. So it seems to be an interesting topic. I think people forget. Maybe they don't forget because it's a bold prediction. It's not their actual prediction. But I do think, even myself, sometimes you forget a little bit. This year, what's going on is the Chiefs and the Bengals defenses are pretty solid. They're pretty damn good. Like, most people would say that both those teams are more offensive teams, and I can't really argue against that, but you actually can make the case for a chunk of the season they're more of defensive teams. So I think they're quite balanced, and that will prevent the high yardage game, I think. It is interesting, though, because the Chiefs kind of running somewhat similar defense to what the Ravens have run, and where Joe Burrow has had success against, some man coverage, a good amount of blitzes. The Chiefs are running a little more cover too, though, than the Ravens. But they do blitz, and Joe Burrow picks up the blitz. He makes a big time under pressure throw against the blitz downfield, and I think the Chiefs been making plays, but I think if you get it deep downfield, because Matthew's kind of in that anywhere between the line of scrimmage to, he'll be downfield sometimes, but anywhere between like the 0 to 10, 15 yards, and there's sometimes where the Bills, they really stretch the ball downfield, kind of keep it away from him. It's kind of the corners and maybe Sorensen. That could be the key here, especially when they all out blitz. Maybe the Chiefs switch it up a little bit. Again, they do run a bit of cover too, which we don't see from the Ravens, so that's the difference. Chiefs are also pretty healthy right now. That's another difference. So, but there are reasons where it's a pretty decent, sounds like a pretty decent matchup for a guy like Joe Burrow to have another high yardage game. And we know Patrick Mahomes is capable at any given time, but these defenses are way better than what people are giving credit for. So I don't think it happens. Kobe White had a ball game last night, a double there. So he's been hooping. Instead of going for the franchise record, Robert Quinn gets one step closer to the league record for sacks, recording 3.5 sacks. I don't want to focus on the specific 3.5 sacks here because anything specific might be kind of piping hot. But it is interesting because Robert Quinn needs a sack for the Bears franchise record, but he needs. Well, if he had a 3.5 sack game, he would probably need that because he's at 17 right now. And the record is Michael Straham's at 22.5. 2 games left to do it. He plays the Giants, struggling at the quarterback position right now, struggling in terms of pass protection. And then they play the Vikings, who we had a pretty good game against last time, And I think you can get after Kirk Cousins. They're more of a run-blocking team. I think you can get after the pass protection. So actually possible. He's going to have to go off a bit here, but I do think it's possible. I think he's going to get the franchise record with two games left. But basically what this is saying is he gets the franchise record this week against the Giants. And then, I mean, even getting a sack is sometimes tough, but I don't think so against the Giants. Gets the franchise record and puts himself in contention to be able to break the all-time NFL record. Straham's at 22.5 with one more game in Week 18. Again, a lot needs to happen, but I think it's actually possible. I'm going to say warm between the Giants. I guess the Vikings doesn't really matter. He just has to. Next week really doesn't matter. He has to put himself in that category after this week. I think it's kind of realistic, but again, he's going to have to get around that 3.5, 4 range. So I'm not going to call it realistic because that's crazy. It's a crazy game, but it happens all the time. I'm going to say warm. I think it's pretty possible here. Definitely something I'm looking forward to. Keep an eye on Robert Quinn. It's interesting too because he had a disappointing year last year. Some people were hyped about when the Bears signed Robert Quinn, like, hey, we got another pass rusher next to Khalil Mack. And some people were a little iffy on it because, does he fit? And then he ended up being extremely underwhelming last year. People were a little ticked off about it. And this year and Khalil Mack's been missing him most of the season too, but he's had a tremendous year, obviously. So definitely interesting, his season, what he's had. Last one, Tyler Andreas. Zaven Collins shows up for Arizona with the sack interception against the Cowboys. This one's pretty damn specific, and it's piping. It's an interesting talking point, though. Very interesting, actually. Not just Zaven Collins. I'm going to call it piping, though. But I saw this and kind of wanted to talk about it. And it could be a game. Maybe they just give it a try. Maybe they just give it a try. And he has a pretty good game here. I kind of could see it, even though it's pretty piping because it's specific. But it's an interesting topic. It's an interesting talking point here because they somewhat surprisingly draft Zaven Collins. Not a lot of people love the pick. They weren't really expecting it. I think we started to expect it a couple days before the draft. We started to hear that they were very interested in him. That ended up being true, obviously. But he's been very underwhelming as a rookie, and then you kind of look at it, he hasn't really played much at all. I mean, he's played several games recently where he didn't play, 0% of snaps, 0 snaps. But then you kind of look back at last year, and they drafted a linebacker early in Isaiah Simmons, obviously. And Isaiah Simmons, people were kind of underwhelmed. What's going on with him? Why isn't he getting production? Why isn't he really getting on the field? When he does, why are the Cardinals only sticking him an inside linebacker? Because he's so talented, can play a variety of positions. Then he kind of figured it out. Second half of the year, this year. And people could say it's kind of the same thing. I'm going to disagree that it's the same thing. I think it can be. I think, maybe he needs to be kind of eased into it, find the role, and then maybe that defense, the play callers, the coaches, to find his role as well. So it could be similar in that aspect where he figures he's only a rookie because he could figure it out at some point. And then you kind of can compare the two scenarios. I think it's different, though. They are both linebackers, and they're both versatile linebackers. But Isaiah Simmons, it was kind of more of the matter of putting him in at first. And then they kind of put him in, and then because they weren't really playing him at all. He was a backup. They weren't really playing him at all. Isaiah Simmons, that is. And it was a matter of putting him in. Then you put him in, you're kind of sticking him at only the inside linebacker role. Got to move him around a little bit, blitz him more, drop him in coverage. And they started doing that more, and he started playing a lot better. So he increased his snaps. How? I think by them just kind of giving him a shot and figuring him out. Isaiah Simmons, that is. Zaven Collins is kind of the opposite. They actually started him beginning of the year. Remember, they're actually going to get rid of Jordan Hicks. And they actually played him struggle a little bit. And they actually took him out. They benched him. He's been playing less and less, seeing 0 snaps all the way down to 0 snaps at one point. So it is different. For Isaiah Simmons to kind of get better, they actually had to play him. And then for the Cardinals to be better, they actually had to take Zaven Collins out, which makes it different. Not the best look, but again, a rookie. But then again, why this becomes even more interesting, we're talking about against the Cowboys. Cowboys got this dominant rookie named Micah Parsons, who's a hybrid, obviously pass rusher, off-ball linebacker, blitz him, drop him in coverage. And Zaven Collins is nowhere near Micah Parsons. Anybody would have told you that pre-draft or even more right now. But there's some similarities there where Zaven Collins he played a unique defense. with Tulsa, and there's times where, is he an inside guy? Is he an outside guy? Played actually more outside. Could he be an edge rusher? Is he more of a blitzer? He's pretty good in coverage, knows how to they had him kind of sit in coverage and just read the quarterback, So I kind of maybe where you could compare him to Isaiah Simmons is they got to use him, and they can't just stick him on the inside and only use him that way, because he actually played more outside and they used him in the blitz. And when he was in the inside, he was more just kind of sitting in coverage and reading the quarterback. He hasn't really done any of that for the Cardinals. So that's why it's kind of interesting. Maybe they should, and it's hard to compare him to Parsons because Parsons has got so much more athleticism, more quickness, footwork, more explosive. Zaven Collins is pretty explosive, pretty strong. But they could use him in that way where kind of get creative. It is a totally different type of defense, so it's tough to do that. It's tough to have. And again, Simmons is also versatile, but he's not really the same as Zaven Collins. But it's tough to have two of those guys that need to be doing all these different things at the same time. So it is why it was kind of an interesting pick. But maybe it's like, hey, let's just try this guy. Let's try to use him in different ways to try to create some momentum as we approach the playoffs to try to throw teams off. I could see that. But it is an interesting situation. It's definitely a to be determined for any rookie still. But it hasn't really looked good just because it was kind of like we got to take him out, put Hicks in, we're better off. That's not great, but it's not yet nowhere near the end of the world there. But, yeah, let's see if they try to use him in different ways, because what he did at Tulsa, and that was my worry too, because what he did at Tulsa was like, I don't know if anybody, maybe Anthony Barr in the Vikings plays a little bit like that, plays an outside, they'll blitz him, and they use him in coverage. There's not too many guys that kind of play that role, definitely not playing that role with the Arizona Cardinals. So it's interesting, we'll see how it works out in the future. But I thought it was an interesting talking point because what's going on there. But those are the bold predictions and takes here for Week 17. Only one more week, then we got playoffs. I cannot wait for our playoff content. I'm ready. We did the regular season thing for, now 17 weeks worth of content here. So I'm just ready for playoff mode for sure. So hopefully you join us for that. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Follow our Twitter link down below for that and recent videos. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.